Stacklands is an indie survival/town builder game released by the game development group Sockpop, or the self-proclaimed boy band of video game design, whose usual gimmick is to release a video game every month to a fairly small audience of around 20 reviews on Steam. Now, that all changed when they released Stacklands, one of their newest games, which has exploded all over the internet, receiving hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube and thousands of reviews on Steam, with an overwhelmingly positive rating. And it's easy to see why, as with Stacklands' incredibly unique take on the genre of town building and survival games, sets it apart from the competition. To explain the gameplay of Stacklands, I'm just going to describe the start of a run for you, without going into too much detail, as a lot of this game is discovering things yourself. So, you spawn in on a board, and you have a villager, and you have some money, and you use that money to buy a card pack. Now, card packs are how you get resources for your world, and the more stuff you get, the better card packs you can buy, and it spirals. So once you buy the card pack, you can mine the resources with your villagers, and combine the resources to create buildings where you can grow food that you will need to keep your villagers alive at the end of every day. If you don't have enough food to keep your villagers alive, one of your villagers will die, or the ones you cannot feed will perish, which is where the survival element comes in, as if you can't keep your villagers alive, your run will end, and you'll lose everything but the knowledge and recipes you gained along the way. Overall, it sounds like a fairly standard town builder game, but the way it's presented in the card format really does give it a new layer. It's incredibly intuitive to anyone who hasn't even played town builders before. I have friends who this is their first time playing town builders and they just understand it instantly, mainly due to the simplistic way the game is designed and the fairly cute art style of the cards and the entire world. Now, despite this game being fairly limited in content at launch, being only 4 hours taking only 4 hours to defeat the final boss, it's still packed in a large amount of content. If you wanted to, you could play forever to increase the amount of buildings you have, upgrade the buildings you have to get more resources, and it was just a really nice experience. You felt like you were achieving things by playing the game, essentially, and the play cycle really did not feel that repetitive, as despite the goal of each day being relatively the same, there were still goals you could put your mind to in the downtime between gathering food for your villagers. So, Sockpop decided to do something I don't think they've ever done before, and release an update for a video game they've made, culminating in this month the release of Stackland's first major update, the Island Update, adding in 100 plus new cards, a completely new board, loads of new features, and much more, which is what I want to cover in this video today. So, first of all, the most obvious thing about this update is it adds a new board, the island, which you can get to after you have defeated the devil, which is the main boss on the mainland. So once you have defeated him, you unlock the ability to get a rowboat where you can send one of your villagers to the island. Now, the island is very different to the mainland, having essentially none of the same cards, meaning you get to go through the discovery you go through at the start of the game all again, discovering new ideas for new crafting recipes and new rumors for new tactics on how to catch better fish, craft better food, and improve your island's infrastructure. So it really brings back the sense of discovery you get when you first play through the game, as instead of trees, you now have driftwood, which you have to mine to get wooden sticks. Instead of stone, you get sand, which you can combine together to create sandstone, eventually being able to unlock the idea of a sand quarry, which is a much more reliable source of stone than just buying the starter pack to get the sand. And the entire food system has been changed. So not only is dirt not available here unless you bring it over from the mainland, meaning you're unable to grow food. So, because you can't grow food on this island because of the lack of dirt, because obviously it's a sand island, you are forced to fish with fishing traps where you can add food in, and you'll be able to catch things like tuna, mackerel, and eels, depending on what bait you put into the trap, which you can then kill and turn into raw fish, which you can either turn into sushi or cook for food. And it's things like that in the game, where despite being so simplistic, there is so much depth to every single aspect of the game, and everything is so well thought out. Another gimmick of the island is that food now spoils. So you're no longer able to stockpile hundreds of apples and salads in order to feed your villagers, and now you sort of have to keep fish ongoing. So you can sell the extra fish for money, or it just spoils and turns into useless goo. Combat is also more fleshed out in this update, as effects have now been added, such as Dazed, which temporarily stuns your card, which encourages you to take your fighter out of battle for a second and let them recover, and then place them back into the action. Which, little details like that, instead of just placing all of your villagers on top, you now have to be actively involved in the combat of the game, which is, again, a really well thought out feature that adds another layer of depth to the game. There are also many more resources that can be gathered here that are useful for your stuff on the mainland, such as glass can now be used to create a greenhouse, which is just a more effective farm, which is another upgrade on your ability to grow food. So it's nice that the island doesn't just have use for the island, you can use it for resources back on the mainland, such as glass and gold. The best feature in the new update, in my opinion though, is the snap cards to grid feature when you press E, which is the most satisfying thing I've ever seen, as your board can often get quite cluttered during a playthrough as you get more cards and then enemies spawn in and then shuffle the cards about. It gets quite chaotic at times, and to be able to just sort that all out is incredibly satisfying and fulfills a deep desire in my soul. But yeah, this is just a video game I really wanted to talk about on the channel, talk about what the game is, try and get you to buy it because it is only £4 on Steam. It runs on both Mac and PC. The developers have talked about increasing the price in the future as they add more content, so there's no better time to grab it than the present. And if you aren't already subscribed, please subscribe, leave a like, comment with your thoughts on the game if you have played it, and yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.